Hello and welcome to Cookiecutter Django 11. This one covers signals. I'm going to do a quick one on signals real quick, and then we'll do that quickly. And then we'll move on to deployment, I think. So signals are a big part of this environment, of the Django environment. If you don't know about signals, I didn't even think to pull up the docs. Let's go to the Django, spelled that wrong, signals. One thing that I do with signals a lot is I'm consistently rebuilding this game that I'm making with Django over and over again. So there's been several times I've had to set this up where the signal, whenever a user gets created, it creates a dashboard, which is actually something I do with most applications I build with the user signal. We create a dashboard and tie it to the user, and then it's good practice to kind of like tie everything to a dashboard instead of the user itself. It's a layer of separation. So creating a dashboard whenever the user's created, that way they have that dashboard, and then using that dashboard object in a view, the dashboard view. If you think about that, if you need that dashboard and the user's created and there's nothing creating the dashboard with it, then what do they have to click a button to create their dashboard? That's one way to go about it, but using a signal, it'll happen automatically. The user's none the wiser. It might be my washer. We'll see how loud that gets. I might have to pause here in a second. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, so we are here in the Django signal documentation. I was hoping for like a decent explanation that I could read of Django signals, but essentially what it is whenever an action happens, you can set it up for a signal to hear that action and then to do something based on that action. There's a couple of different types of signals, pre-save being one of them. Can we go into, let's go to the Django repo. I'm gonna have to kick my cat out now. Bring this over here, and we want to look for Django DB. Oh my god, just a second. All right, we want to look for Django DB. Here's DB. And we want to look for models signals. So models signals. It's the base signal. Well, I'm not sure what that is. No, let's not do that. Okay, pre-delete, post-delete, pre-save, post-save, pre-init, post-init. So those are pretty self-explanatory. If you think about it, and then M2M change, which is a little different, right? Because you have to have the model has to exist, or the object has to exist in order for you to add objects from another model to a many-to-many relationship field. So it happens after the save. I had to deal with that the other day. I can't remember exactly what the particulars are there, but definitely the M2M. If you're dealing with a many-to-many field and you need to do something based off of it being added or changed to, and that's what it is, because it's not really like hard saved. Whenever you add an object to, after the object is created and saved, if it has a many-to-many field, when you add another object to that many-to-many field, you don't have to run save on the object. So the post and pre-save won't pick that up because there's no save that runs. So what you do is you use the M2M change. So there's your list of possible options. Now, we are talking about models. We're talking about signals. It's whenever something happens in a model. Now, we'll see this in just a second, but there's a couple of things that happen within, like, so for pre-save, for instance, you might want to run something if created. And that's where we would run the dashboard creation. We don't want to do that every time the user model saves, right? So you'd only do it the first time. So there's a couple of attributes that we get access to in a signal, which we'll go look at. We'll go look at that right now. I have the project that I'm using is from the WebSockets channels, Celery. It's been all of that. It's a junk project. If you've been following along, you've got all those changes probably. You've been playing with stuff. If this is not really connected to any of that. However, one cool thing about signals is that you can talk to WebSockets and you can talk to Celery tasks within a signal, which is pretty cool. However, so the signal is, are signals blocking? That's a good question that I think I want to ask real quick. I've wondered about that. I haven't had a chance to look it up when appropriate, but let's find out if signals are blocking, or are they like Celery tasks, which aren't really asynchronous. They just run on a different thread, I think. Okay, let's see what it says here. In the context of web development frameworks, a message queue system, signals, and Celery tasks refer to different mechanisms for handling asynchronous operations. And the behavior regarding blocking can vary. Here's an overview of both. Okay, so they're both asynchronous. Django signals are a way to allow decoupled applications to get notified when certain events occur elsewhere in the application. Blocking behavior by default, Django signals are synchronous, meaning they are blocking. So you can do an asynchronous signal. While Django signals are asynchronous by default, they can be made asynchronous by using additional mechanisms such as dispatching the signal handling to a separate thread or process. So Celery tasks is basically where we're going with that. So I was right, but I didn't know I was right, that the signals are blocking. And so one of the cool things about them, though, is that they are pretty much like everywhere else in the Django application. You can fire off a Celery task if you need to, which is great. So we have the Celery task here, and if you're following along with the Celery video from last time, we set it up to print a delay in the printout. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the view. This is where we fired off the task. This is the task itself, where we go through a set of seconds, which I believe we had set to 20 or 30 in the view. 30. Save that. For some reason, it doesn't look saved. So for that amount of seconds, we basically sleep for a second, and then we print results, which is the amount of seconds plus 0. I mean, it just keeps adding up, but it comes up to a weird number. It doesn't mean anything, I guess. And then the iteration, which is essentially just the seconds counting up to 30. One thing is that we do get this error for whatever reason. Something's not great working. No, something's not right here. But it does work up until the soft limit was getting hit, and I had it set at 60. So we'll see. We'll run it here in a minute, but we'll run it from a signal. So what I want to do now is I'm still in this chat app, which again, this is just junk to play around with. There's no models yet, which is cool. We can create a model, and I've actually got one over here I'm just going to use. No, we'll just make one. It's kind of silly. All right, class. See, I said that, and then I don't know what I'm freezing up here. Models.model. And then we really just need, I don't know, we can give it a name. If you name it, you have to keep it. Those are the rules. Max length. 3 dash, that'll work. Do the created app so that we can order them by something other than the alphabet. And I'm totally cheating right now. I almost never type this out. I have a list of model fields that I add into every model: UUID, slug, created at, updated app, a save function that updates the created at and updated app appropriately, and what do you call it? A string output override method. That's, I mean, honestly, it's not complicated at all. It's literally this. But in this situation, the name's required. And so it won't exist without a name, so it's easy to do this. In some situations, you have to be a little more creative. Or just output the UUID, slug. Anyways, this is a model. We don't do anything directly on the model for the signal itself. This should work through the interpreter. We'll try to do this in the command line. What's going on here? Whoa, 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 whoa. Calm down. Autosave name. You got unexpected keyword argument type. Okay, well that, don't know why it's doing that, but we haven't even committed that yet, so let's do that. If you don't know, I'm running docker compose -f docker-compose.local.yml run -rm Django being the container, and then in the container I'm running python manage.py make migrations. I normally just type that out when I'm making one of these videos. I didn't this time, and so I just wanted to make sure. They recently updated autosave name. I was typing words I was saying as I was talking while I was trying to type that. It's embarrassing. So we'll let this migrate, and then we'll have this model to play with. And I'm pretty sure that I can get some of this stuff to work from the command line. But before we go that route, there's a couple things we need to do. So over in the users, yeah, right here, if you go look in apps.py, you'll see a couple things. You'll see a class with user config. You'll see this down here. Def ready, so this kind of overwrites the app config ready signal with context lib.suppress import error. So if there is no signals, because it's importing signals, which is an import statement that you would see normally at the top of the screen or at the top of the page. But in this case, it puts it into this, when everything's ready, check for if there's signals essentially, and then it has this no QA for the linters, so that the linters don't throw a fit if there's no signal. There's no signals. And in the case of the user model, at the moment, there are no signals. So that's fine. It doesn't come with signals. I'm trying to think of one that it would come with. But we need to go into the apps.py file for the chat, or whichever. Sorry, I'm losing track here. We're in the apps.py file within my chat app, and that would be whichever app you're using. Make sure that you do this one little thing though. So anytime you add an app to the Cookiecutter Django project apps folder, the practice is to go into apps.py and to add the project name so that the project can find the app. Down here, it's the same thing. I mean, we're targeting that app, and we want to make sure that they're the same in every app that we put this into. And that's basically it. And there is not a signal file, but watch what happens. Well, let's make sure something happens. Something should happen here. It should just highlight or come full colored when we go back here. Maybe we have to save. Oh, I didn't spell it right. That should go full colored, but whatever. Oh, you know what it is right there. Yep, we can't forget this. We have to import context lib. And that didn't change the color of it for some reason, but at least we know that everything's working. It's in order. We have a signals.py file. All right, so in here, we need to actually pull from that signals .py file we were looking at in the Django repository. So we say from Django db models signals import post save. So whenever a from ws test chat models, whenever what did we call that? What is it? A test. Whenever a test is created, we're going to do something on the save, on the before save, post, after save. So we need a receiver, and I am looking at notes here. This is not a strong point of mine, but once we have the signals set up, it's actually super easy to kind of like know what to do inside of them. Logic wise, they work a lot like views. And in this case, we're actually just going to fire off that Celery task. So we want the post save. Sender is going to be test. Post save test handler. You can name this whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You never actually reference the name of the signal anywhere that I know of. Maybe you could import it and fire it off manually. I don't know why you want to do that, because it's based on yeah, no, it doesn't really matter. Just name it something for reference, because you might have a lot of these signals. Inside of it, we have a sender, which is going to be the model. Instance, which is the object that's in question being saved at the moment. Created, which is a boolean. And then we have our quarks, keyword arguments. So if we want to do something post saved, we want to do it every time, we would just do it, whatever it is. So what do we want to do here? Let's get from test chat tasks, import my task. And so my task delay, delay, come on, period. I'll do 20 seconds. Still not sure why it throws an error at the end of the task. I'll have to find that out. Okay, so every time a test object is saved, after it's saved, because we're using the post save, not the pre-save, and pre-save be this. Oh, maybe I should spell it right. Every time it's going to run my task, hit save. And that's all there is to the signal itself. If we want the if we want to do it the first time, we would say if created, and then we would say, my task delay for 5 seconds. If we don't want to do these together, if we don't want to run it and then check see if it's created and run it again, we could say else. So if not the first time it's created, do that. trying to think of what else here. The instance itself. So in this case, the instance is the model here. So what we have to work with right now is the name and the created at date. So we could say instance.save, which is, well, I don't know why I did that. We could say like instance.name equals instance.name plus test. Put a space and a dash and a space there. And then resave the model, which would again fire these off. Well, I don't know, does that throw it into an infinite loop? Maybe we don't do that. You get the idea though. We have the instance, we can print it, instance. We can get the values of it as long as they exist, created at name. Any methods or functions that are on the model we can use here in the signal. We can also pass it to the Celery where we can do the same thing. However, you can't pass objects to Celery. So let's do this. So we go over into tasks. We're taking seconds. Let's take test. And then down here, let's print test.name. Okay. We don't want to use this view anymore because it's, well, we can just go in and change it to where it doesn't fire that task off anymore. Just maybe even just delete that, because otherwise it's going to now throw an error because it's expecting. Where did that go? It's expecting test. I mean, we could also do like equals none. And then if test, you know, it's a little cleaner for this demonstration. Okay, so we have that. If we actually now go back to the view and put that back in because I'm curious, hit save. Let's go to the logs here and see what happens. Oh Lord. I don't see the error. Oh, there it goes. It's working. It's doing it. Let's see what it does. Let's see if it gets all the way to 30 or if it throws an error. Hey, it did work. Succeeded. Nice. So it does have something to do with the soft limit that we put on the task from the last video. I guarantee you is because we had it set at 60 and we had the seconds set at 60 and it was just like, nah. It's just like 59 probably would have worked. Either way, that seemed to work just fine. But as you can see, it printed all this stuff. It did not, if we go up here, it didn't print the test name because it doesn't exist, right? So over in the signal now, what we would do is we would pass instance. And this shouldn't work because that's the object itself. It's not a reference to the object that we look up over in the task. But we're going to try this, and if it does work, then I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong there, though. Let's see. Okay, so now what we need to do is create a test object, and I think the best way to do that would be in the shell, but we'll have to see if that works with the signals. If not, we'll make a button. Okay, so from chat, from WS test chat models, import test, and then test.objects.create name would equal test1. All right, and then we'll switch over. Make sure there's no errors. Object of type test is not okay. Well, yeah, there you go. That's so that this what that tells us is that we got into the post save function, the signal, and we got up to firing off the task, which is awesome. That's what we want. But we got here, and it's telling us that this isn't JSON serializable. So we need a JSON serializable input that we can give to the task in order for it to work. So what we do is that we can just send the ID of the test. For now, I normally have a slug, a UUID that I convert into a slug on the model, and I'd use that. It doesn't really matter. You just need a primary key. We'll put it that way. If it's an email, if it's a username, whatever. This is how we have to pass it. Over in the task, now that we're getting that, we have to import from, and do keep in mind that you can pass objects back and forth between models and views. That works. It just doesn't work with Celery tasks for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't know what the difference is there. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's just because it's demanding JSON. I don't know. We want to go to WS test chat models, import test. And then we'll get if test. The test is going to equal test. Say test again. Get where the ID is kind of, when it's not the object itself, I like to use the attribute that I'm passing. It just makes it clearer, more under control. It's an old commercial reference. And then the test variable itself is the actual test object in this situation. So what do we want to do here? We want to print. Could have just left that print statement that I had. We can print the whole object. We'll get the name and everything. No, we won't. We'll just get it's just going to print the name, because that's what the print string is set up to do. Okay, so now whenever we created a test object, we might need to, let's exit out of the shell and get back in. Make sure we get a reset. Okay, so we want to import test, and then we want to make test object. Test object is created. If we go over here, let's do that in separate containers here. Let's split the terminal, close the file manager. It's not what I meant. Which one am I looking at? Two. Let's see what happens when we do this. Okay, so there's our celery task in work. For whatever reason, it's printing out test as the name up here. I guess that's the bottom spacing down there. And then, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I gave it a couple of seconds to run. Sorry, this is, let's do this. We'll say from celery. That's not how you spell that. Want to kind of understand. We could actually also print vars on the object to get the full object. That'll give us a clear view of what's going on. Oh, and then we have bind set to true. While we're at it, I also would like to put a couple of line breaks here and print self dot result request and see what's going on with that. We don't want to refresh there. We just want to make another object. Do a 3. Make sure this is scrolled all the way down. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, man. All right. So again, the task ID is on self. Shadow, ETA. Some of this stuff is for scheduling. Scheduled tasks. Root ID. Okay. Cool. It's good to know. This is the actual model itself, or the object. We have the name there. We have, and then it's doing the number thing down here. We do have it just firing off from the signal, if created else. Signals can also talk to WebSockets, which I don't. Let's see what kind of WebSocket I have. What kind of channels? It can talk to channel layers, is what I should say, which are over your WebSockets. Where are the sockets? Config WebSockets. See if we have any simple response. Yeah, it's on the receive. It's for the chat consumer. What is the route for that? Oh, you need a room name. You know what? Is it going to break anything? That's okay. I'm going to do a really in-depth build of a chat system and notification system and some other things on a live stream here on YouTube. If you will like, share, subscribe, donate, send me gift cards. I don't know. What do people... I'm just trying to play around. But no, here in the next couple of days, I plan to do a live stream where I cover using all of the last 10 videos in one project build. And this is part of it at the moment. What we could run on the channel layer, we could run a send to group function that hits that receive, and then we could pull up a chat socket in the console here and get that response. But it is possible. It's super easy. It's no different than running it. Trying to think of where I'm running that from. I think I'm running it just from the views right now. You know what? I'm getting projects confused. I haven't even done that on a live stream. Or I haven't done that on a YouTube. See, I'm getting what I'm doing confused too. I haven't done that on a YouTube video yet. Where we've... I had to have done it through the console, through the terminal or something. There's no way I didn't cover that. But we use the async to sync. We get the chat layer from channels. We send a group message, and then that message is in my case is HTML, so it's updating the notifications box on the front end, or it's sending it's appending a chat to a chat room, whatever the case is, and we will build that. I am going to do that very soon. But I don't know if I've covered that over here. Either way, this was about signals, and the signals allow you to do all of those things. It is blocking, so it's no different than whenever the model's created. It stops. It goes, the view fires, the model gets created, then whatever signals happen, and then whatever else gets between the user and then that next instance of your application. So if whatever you can take out of that and put into Celery is great, but then you have a communication issue in terms of updating your front end whenever Celery's done doing whatever it might be doing, from arranging notifications to building out a dashboard, generating a report. So that's where signals, or that's where the ASGI WebSockets come in, where channels comes in. So just keep all that in mind. One thing I will kind of show you before I go, and I do have do I have a dashboard? No, I don't have a dashboard on here. So ignore the errors. Let's pretend I do. I say chat.model, sure, models import dashboard, which doesn't exist, right? So down here, like I was saying before, this is in the if created statement. I would just go dashboard.objects.create in the signal. You could do this. This isn't at the moment, with the way that this is just one other object being created. It's not such a big deal where it's render blocking, or where it's like it's a blocking issue. Render blocking is for like front end stuff, but and you also generally, like when a user signs up for your application, they put in their information, they get the email, they click the confirmation, it takes them to the sign in, and then the next time they sign in, they need to sign in to their dashboard generally, right? Or you can send them to settings. But if you think about it, if they go to sign in and the dashboard's not created yet for whatever reason, Celery's behind, or I don't know, they won't have anywhere to land. It'll give them a server error. The dashboard doesn't exist. So be mindful of that. Some things are not necessarily good for Celery, or you have to find a way to entertain the request while you're working out the task. But the only thing that a dashboard generally would need from this is the instance. Whoa, nope. Let's assume that the sender's user too. Sorry, I know it's a lot of hypotheticals, but you get you get the point, right? We get whenever a user's created, we need to create a dashboard. We need the user on the dashboard, and then you could go even further. Like on my game, I have a wallet, which needs the dashboard. The ledger needs the wallet. It's capital L. I'm not writing out all the stuff there. Generally, I give them some money whenever they first create the account. So there's a ledger item, which I've changed to transaction, which requires the ledger. And there's a function on the ledger actually where I don't ever use this, because I run a function on the ledger that does the transactions either way, but it creates the transaction object. So you get my point, right? So like you can do layers upon layers of creating objects. Like if a user signs up for your app and they need, all the widgets and gadgets in order for the app to function correctly. The signals is the place to do it. And then you just have to kind of sort out, do I need this to run in a task, or is this something that needs to be immediately available and there's no point in the user even loading the next page until it is available? And that's where you decide whether or not you're using Celery or whatever. If you find a way to gracefully deliver the dashboard when it's ready, for instance, and it takes a minute to create the dashboard in the scenario I'm talking about, so the user goes to the dashboard page, the dashboard's not available, you'd have to put up some kind of graceful, hey, your dashboard's being loaded, like a loading bar, and then deliver that through a WebSocket or redirect or some method, polling, to get the dashboard onto the page whenever it's ready. And by the natures of dashboards, they're edited all the time because they hold settings, they hold all of the objects that a user has in your app, but they're kind of like they're created and then they're there. They go away with the user. They should be there with the user. The user should only ever have one. Well, in most basic cases, because then we're getting into a whole thing about users being able to have access to multiple dashboards and sharing access and members and owners and that whole bag. But yeah, that's it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. This is about the signals, and that's pretty much how we use signals. I'm going to leave this on a broken site, but you saw all the functionality. You saw all the good stuff. And with that, yeah, still working towards deployment. I'll get a deployment one up before I do the live stream thing. So, see you then.